In an Umbop it's gone, in an Umbop it's not there. It's VGC, the Video Game Podcast, episode 156 with me, Chris Scullion, Andy Robinson and Alex Donaldson. This week, the Xbox Developer Direct, a Nintendo legend bows out and Ubisoft goes blah. But first, how are we doing, chaps? Alex Donaldson, Mr. RPG, and by RPG, I mean Robocop party guy.
Calling live from Las Vegas Casino in Soho.
Fantastic, for the benefit of the audio listeners, a fantastic Golden T 3D golf machine behind you. How are things, sir?
Yeah, I'm good. It's I'm sure many people who are independent contractors or whatever in their line
know
of work
how to hide
relate.
some tax.
It's the end of the tax year, so I'm a little bit stressed, but I'm good. Yeah, and it's been a weird month for games, right? In the sense that quiet January is no more. Whether that's announcements or whether that's the odd thing coming out. Yeah. But I'm good. Yeah, how about you guys?
We're good, Andy. How are you doing? We've been Jordan free this week, hence my hosting.
It's been
duties.
lovely, isn't it?
It's just been so quiet. It's been so lovely.
Yeah, I occasionally get like a text from him going, "Look, it's this strong zero." Oh,
yeah.
I found a hub.
For those who couldn't figure out his cryptic clues last week, Jordan's currently flying back from Japan. His first time there, so
Kuala Lumpur or wherever we said he was.
Yeah. So I'm sure, obviously for things we can't disclose yet, but I'm sure when he gets back, he'll be talking constantly about it. So look forward to that.
Yeah, I agree with Alex. It's getting a bit more. It's been a pretty busy week, isn't it, Chris?
Mm-hmm. It has.
It's before this week, it's just dead.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, the advertising market's still dead. But there's things to read about.
Yeah,
it's not been as bad as I'd feared. I mean, that's real inside baseball, but it's been better than previous years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, especially because like when I look at my run of the show for this week, the stories we're going to talk about, we're not even talking about the explosion at Rockstar's offices. Like in any other week, that would be like top news. Rockstar blew up, but instead it doesn't even make the cut this week because so much stuff was announced. So.
And that's on that note, it's worth mentioning. So I'm sure Jordan mentioned this last week, but we've got a 50% offer on the Patreon for another week. So this might be the last time we can mention it. I think you use the code JAN26 at patreon.com/videogameschronicle, and you get to try out all of our lovely offering, ad-free browsing on the website as well, for as little as probably less than a cup of coffee these days, right? Not that I don't know how much a cup. I guarantee less than a cup of coffee because you're not getting one for like £2 anymore, right?
Oh, definitely not. Well, my mum gave my wife a Costa voucher for her Christmas, among other things, and she rinsed it in like 2 or 3 visits. Like, so that's how much £30 it gets you these days.
Rare, serious moment. It makes a big difference. Like having the Patreon community supporting us, and I'd really love this year to kind of make headway towards being, something more closer to a reader-funded publication. Yeah. So thanks everyone who signs up. Give it a go if you haven't already.
Yeah, it really does make a difference. It's the difference between like every day like worrying and
it's the difference between one arcade machine or 2 arcade machines.
It's the difference between having Golden T 3D golf and also having a point blank machine.
I promise you, those arcade machines, that's the pandemic money right there. That's the lockdown.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, Alex, would you care to tell us
we never knew we had it so good.
Like, Alex, would you care to share what you're doing tomorrow with your mates? Because Andy, you should see the other side.
Are you doing the draft?
Andy said no. We're having a whiskey tasting night. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 whiskeys here. And that was why I was in here because I happened to be setting this up for tomorrow anyway. And then I was like, I've got to go on in 15 minutes. I might as well do it from in here.
What kind of extravagance is this that you're setting up your whiskey night 24 hours in advance? That's assuming you're starting to start drinking in the morning.
Stock in the fridge in the bar. People are coming over about 1 in the afternoon.
Rolling the barrels out of storage.
People are coming around about 1 in the afternoon. I was saying because we can't do super late night drinking because we're all NFL fans. And so it's the playoffs currently. So it'll be the conference games on Sunday. We're going to be watching those. So those games are going to be kicking off UK time at 11:30 p.m. And 8 or something like that. So basically, the games won't be finished until about 3:30 in the morning. So even though we're having this whiskey tasting and drinking on Saturday night, we can't go too late because then it'll mess us up for the NFL. So we're starting early. We're going to start like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. But also, stock in the fridge and stuff, it takes time. And once the wife and kids are home, it's a nightmare trying to do it. So I always sneak out when I'm supposed to be, doing a bit of work between meetings or whatever. And so I've stocked the fridge. Chris watched me tap a beer keg and put it into the beer machine while we were waiting for you to go.
It's the most exciting thing I've watched all week. It was fascinating. Of course, we all know Harry Potter's a big whiskey fan. We went into a bar once and said, "Can I get a double whiskey?" And the barman says, "We don't serve 12-year-olds." He says, "I don't expect you would in this dive. I just want anything." Let's start with story number 1. Forza Horizon 6. Obviously, we had the big Xbox Developer Direct last night, where 4 new games were shown. The first of which was Forza Horizon 6. Showed a deep dive into the 6th Forza Horizon title, which takes the series to Japan for the first time. It also confirmed the previously leaked release date of the 19th of May, with a premium edition offering 4 days early access. Both of us, I believe, have watched the Direct. I certainly watched it with Andy, which is always fun to cover these things when they're just firing info at you constantly. Andy, what did you make of it?
Yeah, Playground. This could be the year that really cements them as like, top tier,
dogs.
right? I mean, they're already a great developer, but they're specialized, right? I mean, obviously their heritage is a Codemasters and the racing game guys. Fable looks like stupidly good for a studio that's kind of has built a new team making an action game. I mean, I know they've been working on it for ages, but if they can hit that home, then they're really, for me, they're probably they would be, right? They'd be the best, the most important Xbox studio for sure.
Certainly the best UK studio. Is that crazy to say? Am I totally forgetting someone?
There's not many left, right? They're in. Yeah, I guess they're not independent either.
Yeah. How are the Midlands?
Who knows?
More studios in the Midlands. We clearly got it. We had it with Rare. And that's actually the interesting thing, right? Is like geographically and everything else. So Playground sort of making very different sorts of games, but I could see them coming to occupy the same space that Rare once occupied in terms of the reputation as the British prestige studio that also is all about the British humour and stuff. Because people said they were a funny fit for Fable, but even the Horizon games always had that slight twang to their writing and stuff that would only be British,
Yeah.
Do you know why the Midlands is so successful in terms of game development historically? I get some inside baseball as someone who's worked in London and in a game studio in the Midlands, because there's no distractions for the game developers because there's nothing there.
That's quite Leamington's far.
That's good.
I mean, certainly, like if you're like where Rare is, there's nothing to do.
Yeah.
So it's like, do you want to stay here in the building with electricity and heat and carry on making your games, or do you want to drive the 45-minute journey home, in the dark?
Yeah. At least Leamington is a town. I love how they, in all their presentations,
Royal Leamington Spa.
They call it Royal Leamington Spa to make it sound.
That's what we tell Americans it's called. Yeah.
That's what Phil Spencer thinks it's called.
Just to preempt the angry comments on YouTube, of course, when we were talking about the best UK developer, we all just briefly forgot Rockstar North. It's
too weird though, because they're so international.
They feel American, even though they're like 10 minutes drive from me. Like GTA, just
you wouldn't. There's not really much. Not many tells, are there? Like if you weren't explicitly told, would you know that they're in Scotland?
No.
I mean, I say that to because obviously GTA really cuts through, to mass market. So whenever I mention to friends and family that, they go, "What? Really? It's in Scotland?"
Yeah.
Well, whenever
they throw in one or... Sorry,
I was just going to say, whenever GTA comes out, that's the thing that the BBC run, right? The biggest game of all time made in Scotland.
Yeah.
They just got that story on the bank.
Yeah. They do it
and it's constant. I mean, like here, like we everyone in Scotland knows it's GTA, but that's about it, because like whenever I tell any taxi driver or anything, what does he do? Oh, right, but video games. Oh, like Grand Theft Auto. Yep. That's all they ever talk about, and then they all talk about how they've got a pal who works there and won't tell them anything. But yeah, it's going back to Forza, Forza, I think it looks like Forza, same as usual, but the Japan stuff's interesting. You were saying at the time, Andy, have you watched it back since? Because you thought it.
No, I'm
maybe
literally
didn't look
booting
quite as
YouTube
good.
now before I make an absolute idiot of myself. I'm typing in Forza Horizon 6 because I was like, but look, even if I am chatting absolute rubbish, right? It's a talking point. I was like, no, okay, oh no, that's footage of actual Royal Leamington Spa. I'm looking at.
Oh, it looks amazing.
Does it look royal?
Because at the time while we were watching the stream, I was like, what? This doesn't look as visually impressive as the last one. Keep in mind we're looking at a crappy stream. Okay, no, yeah, it looks amazing. I'm looking at a crappy stream.
To be fair, you're right. We were the YouTube streaming doesn't really make
because the thing the last one, the big flex with 5 was. Do you remember when they first showed it? Is that they showed the environment and you basically thought it was CG, and then the camera pan around and it was the place was racing, and it was like wow, like that game basically does look photorealistic in parts, right?
Yeah.
And I was just watching that stream. I've not really had enough time to ingest it. I was like, I didn't know if because obviously Tokyo is on a different level in terms of like a metropolis, right?
Yeah,
kind of rendering that sort of environment is a bit different to rendering like rolling hills and stuff. But no, this looks absolutely incredible. So I'm glad you prompted me to watch that. Otherwise, I would have made a real tit of myself.
But I do take your point that you made last night. Was that the city stuff maybe looks slightly less impressive? But I wonder if that's just because.
Yeah, I think it might be an engine thing. It's a scope thing as well, right? This is a massive open world 60 FPS.
And especially because if you're talking about lighting as well, you drive through Akihabara at night.
And they have a real problem, right? Because you remember PGR and stuff like that. They used to be the best looking games, like fighting games and driving games. Basically driving and fighting games, the scope was so small that they could, obviously add fidelity to everything. But driving games, it's like, well, you're going at 100 miles an hour, so of course it looks wonderful.
It's a Sonic problem.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but I guess I'll be quite interested to, if Microsoft ever gave us access. To speak to these guys, their art director or what have you, about that, because it's quite probably an interesting, coming together of like a racing game where you're going to be going a million miles, but it's actually also an open world game where you're going to go and explore and stop and check things. So I wonder how they pick and choose where they allocate their resources in terms of like art.
Well, this is what I'm most interested about because, obviously, they did the UK one, right? And so for us, that was the perfect opportunity to see and sense and feel how they did that. And the most interesting thing in the UK one was the way they sort of compressed Britain in its entirety into this open world map, where you did have little pockets of it that were absolutely recognizable to the real world. And for me, at least, of the settings they've done, this is the one that I'm going to recognize the second most after the country in which I grew up. And so like Chris, you mentioned Akihabara at night, and I'm sure you've got to should be a scramble in there and stuff like that. And I'm fascinated by how they're going to construct that open world, how close to the foot of Fuji they're going to let you get, for instance, and things like that. Are they going to include Osaka, Kyoto, or are they going to just strictly do Tokyo and the surrounding metropolitan area? So I'm really interested to see what they do there, because it's a fascinating art, the art of compressing a real city into these much smaller zones where it still feels like, oh yeah, I know if you go around the corner from here you'll find X. And the only other people that I think are really good at that, the conversation comes in a circle, is probably Rockstar, where us guys who've been to E3 loads, the playing GTA 5 when it came out was like, oh my god, I know where I am on this map downtown based on E3.
People, there's adults now who have the opposite experience, right? They go to LA for the first time and they know where they are.
And so I'll be fascinated to see how they compress that open world, because like you say, it's really interesting, and it is. You don't want to spend too much money building all this stuff, because you go past it a million miles an hour. However, the interesting thing is when you watch that live stream, they talk about car meets, right? So they do also want you to stop and smell the roses, because part of Japanese car culture is you all go and illegally hang out in a parking lot and do donuts and stuff. And so they're trying to bring that into their online lobbies. And so you are going to be sitting stationary, which, but that then, like Andy says, becomes a budgetary challenge.
It's cool. It's cool they're kind of leaning on the Japanese, like, because they're adding those kind of mountain races. I forget what they call the Tog races or Togu, sort of, where they kind of, there's a Need for Speed game. Tried that once, where you do the kind of the downhill, really tight mountain courses as 1v1 races. So that could be quite interesting. I'm up for it. I mean, I've been saying for ages anyway that I still think Forza Horizon's the best series of the generation. Which got me mocked before, but so I think this is going to be fantastic. I really can't wait for it.
Agree.
We'll see. We briefly touched on Fable. That looks something special. I think. Again, like, is it mental to say that those two games could be Game of the Year nominees by the end of the year?
I don't think it's mental at all. I think it's totally. I don't think it's totally possible, because also it's a weird thing. It's a year in which.
GTA is going to come out. And
everyone's running scared from GTA, right? So I think there's probably going to be less of everything this year, and thereby, one, that's going to open up the field a little bit for the games that are bold enough to come out this year. But two, I just think they look really good, and I think I would have nominated personally the last two Forza Horizons for Game of the Year.
Yeah.
And I think Fable looks really. I'm dancing on the ceiling, because as someone who specialises and runs a website around role-playing games, we're not really going to cover GTA. We might do one article on, like, if it's got all the San Andreas style stat systems and stuff. We might do one article on, like, the GTA systems underneath the GTA, the RPG systems underneath GTA. But we're not going to cover it, so we're not going to make the money out of the other that everyone else is making out of GTA. So I'm like, where's the games that we're going to cover? And up until now, the year's sort of been Fire Emblem and a bunch of HD remasters and stuff like that. Yeah. And a couple of remakes, and sort of like praying to the gods that maybe like Persona gets announced and gives us some beats, or Final Fantasy VII Part 3 or whatever. And obviously we got Fire Emblem. That's great. But all of a sudden, there's like this great big tentpole Western RPG, which is sort of what we were missing. And I've got some minor caveats, some minor concerns, but I think it looks really, really good on the whole. I'm really excited.
I expect nothing less than a guide to all 1,000 NPCs that are going to be in the game. What are your caveats? What are your concerns just yet, or is it too early to kind of judge?
I just wish it looked a bit more like the originals in terms of the art. It's a little
character
bit
dimensions.
It's a little bit tidier, a little bit more heroic. Where, and I understand, I had an exchange with a developer on Blue Sky about this last night, and they said the same thing, and I was like, yeah. And I said to them, the thing is, I don't think that's slightly, they almost look like they were made out of clay, you know what I mean? That sort of look necessarily passes muster with a focus group and with the execs at Xbox Game Studios when your budget's that as massive as it surely is for this game. But I do miss that a bit. And I just hope that when I look at those art stuff, that those, the more genuinely heroic look, I just think to myself, I hope they don't go too hard on they've clearly got the silly stuff, but what I don't almost want is it's epic and it's serious and it's got the silly stuff on the side. It's Lord of the Rings plus Monty Python. What I want Fable to be myself is just Monty Python. But
it's so difficult. I think the most difficult thing for these reboots of 20, 30-year-old games, or 25-year-old games in this case, is nailing that tone, right? Nailing the feel of the game. And then everything else, you can kind of take liberties beyond that. Certainly if you're in relation to fans of the original game, right? I mean, probably the bigger concern for these sorts of things is getting new players in. And they've absolutely nailed it. Like, you look at, say, for example, you look at what they were doing with Perfect Dark. That didn't look or feel like a Perfect Dark game to me. It was like they took the top line concept and made something new, right? At the time, obviously I'm good friends with Grant Kirkhope, the composer. Like, it didn't sound like he was having much luck in speaking to them about doing the soundtrack for that game and things like that. They weren't, within their rights, right? Particularly concerned with hanging on to those kind of like nostalgia threads. But this game looks I absolutely loved in the interviews afterwards that he talks about how they read through the original design documents from Lionhead, And the most important thing that they latched onto was that it said this is Fable's not a fantasy game; it's a fairy tale game. Yes. And it does feel like that. They've got it like the big giants and the giant fruit and the giant chickens and, the absurdity of all of it. I mean, all of the cities are there and the characters are familiar. I think the NPC thing is the absolute smartest thing that they could hone into for this game. For those who've not seen it, is they've got, I can't remember, the living populace, I think they call it. There's like over 1,000 original NPCs and they react to you based on your actions in the game, which is such a nail on hook for what Fable is, the player choice and having a bespoke experience and the banter with the NPCs as well. I think what will come next, hopefully, is that, they've also said in the interviews that they're not really talking about the cast and stuff at the moment, but getting like everyone from every Channel 4 comedy chat show on is just absolutely perfect for,
and we already know, right?
This game.
We already know they're not talking about it, but we already know they got super hands, and they got as like your main mentor guy.
I think I heard like people like Catherine Ryan and that are in there.
Especially if there's 1,000 NPCs as well, you got to wonder how many cameos there might be there. You got to imagine a couple of those might be like folk that've just turned up for a couple of lines, and that could be awesome.
You mentioned Catherine Ryan. This is the one thing I always wanted out of the Fable world. Albion obviously is a version of Britain, and the other games kept sort of touching on the idea of there was a Fable version of France just over the channel, and you had a couple of times. I can't think of any names now, but there's a couple of black characters in Fable 2 and 3 where there's black characters in Albion. There's black Albionese, whatever. There's black Albion. There's black Albions, yeah. But there's a couple of black characters that are accented where it's like, oh yeah, they've come from a land far away. And I hope they go in on that in the sense that, like in the presentation, they mentioned the North, and I was like, I better hear a load of fucking Northern accents. I better hear Geordies and Brummies and Liverpudlians. I better hear that. Like, and if you get in British celebrities, you go and get Craig Charles or whoever, get him to do his Lister, get him to play a Lister-esque character. And similarly, if you're going to get someone like Catherine Ryan, I want to know what the Fable equivalent of Canada is. I want them to lean into all that.
I'm really excited. I also love the fact that, because people were like, how much of a part is Richard Ayoade going to play in it? Because obviously he was in the first kind of cinematic trailer, and people were like, why is he so tall? And all that. So they've explained now that he takes this potion which makes him large. And the fact that this is early on in the game, and you can decide whether to kill him or save him. And if you kill him, he just lies dead on your land and stays there for the entire game. I love the fact you can entirely change the landscape based on.
And then apparently it like affects house prices and stuff like that.
Yeah. People are like, this. Why is this big stinking rotten corpse lying next to my house?
When you talk about the house prices and all that, the thing that strikes me is the template is very much clearly Fable 2. Because 2 was the game where you
Fable
could
2
do
very felt like Fable 2 was like the better realized one, right?
Yeah,
yes, Fable 3 was the more ambitious one. The ambition, I mean, it was Peter being Peter, right?
They needed longer in the can, that one, I think.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
I'm excited. I love stuff that's explicitly and unashamedly British, and I really enjoyed in the UI. Obviously, it says what people think of you. It's a very small touch, but and it says what some of my colleagues think of me. But Jim Trinker clipped one that said they think you're a rich twat and sent it to me on WhatsApp. But anyway, the point is, aside from what Jim Trinker thinks of me, the fact that that's the wording they've used gives me a lot of hope. But no one in America went, could we use a more accessible, insult than twat?
But this is the sort of game that we wanted to see from the Game Pass model, right? When they're talking about breaking away from, the Walmart, am I going to spend 60 quid based on this box art and the trailers? Like people trying stuff, right? That we'd get some AAA games with a bit more, authorship, maybe not authorship, more like, like have something to say, have an identity, and not just like cookie cutter Marvel stuff, which is a lot more of like what we're used to seeing from these types of games.
But also a big game, right? In the sense that, because we get a lot of that stuff in Game Pass, but it tends to be stuff like Kill the Double Fine, game that was announced. You tended to be the smaller stuff. So to get this bigger thing, and obviously, elephant in the room, it's on PlayStation as well. So hopefully the combination of people on Xbox and PC just being able to try it via Game Pass, the excitement about the IP from the people who are old enough to remember it, those two things can then also drive your PlayStation sales. It's as far as as far as I'm concerned, I think it could be their biggest.
I mean, but the other caveat for this, right? Before we get too ahead of ourselves for kissing Microsoft's ass for taking this wonderful flex, is that Fable was their biggest like other than Halo, Fable was their biggest franchise.
No, Gears.
Fable was bigger. Fable outsold Gears. I'm sure it did.
Really?
I'm going to go and check that. I remember at the time, that was the point. It's like Fable is their biggest non-Halo thing.
Wow.
I'm going to have to check that now.
I mean, it's
anyway,
close.
Regardless of it's not right. If it's not second, it's third. The let's make a very English fairy tale RPG. It's not the risk that it may have been if this was a totally original IP, when actually they can look back and go, these games were incredibly popular in a genre that's even more incredibly popular than it was then.
You say that, but then look at how different they felt the need to make Perfect Dark, right? Based on both what was publicly and
obviously, not that much because they can the thing. But I know that to me, Fable's something that still gets made, I think. Whereas Perfect Dark to me sort of felt like the kind of like, I mean, I know it was announced before the pandemic, but the different times indulgence. We need some more IP. Let's just get it out there and develop it.
I maintain that has the potential to be, and I think that's why 2K was interested. That character, that world has the potential to be a really amazing IP. But I think they probably needed to make a different sort of game to the one they were actually making in the end. Probably something a bit more like an immersive sim sort of thing. But alas, I digress. The one thing I'll say about all this, by the way, just to come back to Forza for a second. Now, admittedly, I spoke to someone and my understanding is that this is more happening due to just getting ready and platform-related reasons as opposed to like giving an exclusive. But I really do strongly feel they need to stop putting out a game on Xbox and then 3, 6, 9 months later putting it out on PlayStation, because you can spin that narrative two ways. One direction you can take it is it's first on Xbox and first on Game Pass and first on Xbox PC. But the other direction you can spin it is like with Avowed, the developer got feedback, the developer took the feedback on board. The developer incorporated that feedback, patched the game a bunch of times, did some free DLC, and then PlayStation just gets a better version of the game, and everyone crows saying Xbox beta tested. And I hope that's not going to be the case for Forza. I don't think it's going to be as long as of a gap as Avowed, probably. But
no,
I think they need to stop doing that. It either needs to be like a year plus, or it needs to be day and date.
Day and date.
These little.
How you feel about it?
I think I was chatting a little bit of nonsense. I think what I was thinking was on the original Xbox is their biggest.
Right, that makes sense.
Gears of War wasn't on there. But it looks like they're fairly close. I mean, again, like without me going, I'm not using sales that I would write a news story. I'm not saying nothing. So it's like Fable 2 did 5 mil and Gears 2 did like 7. But obviously they've been more. I mean, it's a 40 million units franchise Gears of War apparently, but obviously there's more games to take from. But,
I mean, it depends on how you're looking at it, right? Because these days their biggest IP is Minecraft, right?
Of course, and Forza Horizon.
Yeah.
How you feel about
Age of Empires is probably above Fable, being realistic. If I had to guess.
Andy, how you feel about the PlayStation release date for Fable? Because I know people have been talking about your words on that recently, but they said last night Xbox, PC, and PlayStation in the autumn. So they've not said day and date yet, but it certainly sounds at least that it'll be close enough. Worst case scenario.
That's what you interpret from that, right? I also would. It's funny when you say this because obviously we have lots of inside baseball people who listen to the podcast. So there'll be someone probably on Microsoft's
somebody's ready to type out
sat there who's like, well, that's not. I know that. But I do wonder if they've set that vague window because of GTA again and how many people will be doing that. Because you're looking like, is it going to come out in November? Are they going to delay it again?
Yeah. Well, do they? Because actually, this is the interesting thing. So, and I always use this as a barometer, right? But I've got, as I'm sure we all do, we've got that group chat of the mates you've had forever. So guys that I went to senior school and in some cases junior school with. And this WhatsApp group is like 16 lads. And what's interesting about that is because we've known each other since we were children, it's a brilliant like cross section of society where we've got accountants and plumbers and teachers and, bus mechanics and stuff like that. And so it runs the gamut on income brackets. It runs the gamut on how long we stayed in education. It also runs the gamut on people. We were all gamers when we were young, but people who completely fell out of video games, through to people who buy 1 or 2 games a year.
It's a good like litmus test, isn't it?
Up to people who care about games and read Blue Sky and stuff. And what was interesting is about Fable, the first thing that someone said about Fable in that chat was, Fable looks good, but if it comes out after GTA, it's dead. And the fact that, and this came from a guy who is not like hardcore video game, follows everything. Like he's someone, I think he's got a subscription to Edge, so he's enough into it. But that's probably, unless something happens that's newsy, that's probably the only video game stuff he's reading. Yeah. And the fact that he was the person who said that, I looked at that message and I was like, that's interesting, because that's him basically signaling, once GTA comes out, I'm going to play GTA and I'm probably not going to.
Well, that's what's going to happen, isn't it? These people are just going to play GTA and nothing else.
So, but that's the question for Microsoft then, is if they can't get out ahead of GTA, do they give themselves longer and push it? Or do they not care because they like its Game Pass?
I think they will. I think they must know they have to release, because it was meant to be out last year and they delayed it. Fable. Yeah. It's the fact that this has to be the final definitive. We need to get this out in the autumn, otherwise, like you say, like once GTA comes out, like everything takes a massive hit, and they can't afford to do that after it's taken so long to. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say the flip side of that, I suppose, like you say, is there is also an argument, and another publisher said this to me: the handful of people who have the stones to go out, because there'll be so little competition other than GTA. If you're someone who wants a new game and you don't want GTA for whatever reason, Fable's your big game option, I guess.
Yeah, seems that way.
Super Mario Wonder plus Balboa Park, or whatever it's called.
I expect a 3D Mario this year myself. Like that's just the timeline. It's been so long, so I'm sort of assuming that Mario Wonder is. I would not be surprised if Mario Wonder's the stopgap game in order to have something out when the movie drops. But I wouldn't be massively surprised if around the time that movie drops, we get a direct where a new 3D game is announced. If I was Nintendo, I would not miss the opportunity to have a trailer for a new game in front of that movie.
Is Mario the only game that can release around about the same time as GTA and not be cannibalized by it? Because the audiences are so different.
I think that you can hyper niche stuff, right? Like Fire Emblem. You could put that around GTA and it wouldn't massively matter. It would still do its 3-4 million units.
It's still 12 copies. But yeah, no.
Joe, it's funny you say that though, about like Nintendo's brand power, like at a mass market level. So I did a story yesterday. Are we talking about this? I don't want to spoil where around. Anyway, no, we're not. Which is a shambles, Scullion. But so I'll talk about it. I'm joking. Battlefield outsold Call of Duty last year in the US for the first time ever. Right, which is a big deal. So I was doing some research for this story. Call of Duty has, consistently been the best-selling game in the US for most of the last 20 years, like since 2008. It's only ever been outsold by Rockstar games, so i.e. GTA 5, Red Dead Redemption 2, and recently Hogwarts Legacy, which is obviously a big phenomenon in 2023. And it's placed 5th, Black Ops 7, 5th. Yeah. Like, that is behind like Borderlands and NBA. I might have missed. Well, I've definitely missed one because that's how math works. And Monster Hunter Wilds.
Monster Hunter Wilds, yeah.
I mean, obviously there's caveats. There's caveats that it's that it's obviously on Game Pass, right? But
Yeah.
also this year it had more competition. It's the best Battlefield in a long time, and it reviewed very, very poorly. So anyway, I digress. But that's a big story this week that not many people picked up on. The last time that Call of Duty finished this low was 2008. Did GTA 4 come out in 2008?
I want to say
Possibly.
that sounds right to me.
It did. Right. So anyway, it's very relevant to our conversation. So we're talking about this year, and does it have a chance and blah blah. Guess the top 6 selling games in 2008.
2008.
I can see you googling.
No, I'm due to be guessed.
I might as well. I'll just tell you.
I'm going to put
the top. Where did GTA 4's and Call of Duty place in 2008 in the top 10?
Well, I'm going to guess based on the way.
I've already told you one of them. It would have been World at War, Call of Duty World at War.
So, mate,
it was
fifth,
post Modern Warfare.
Fifth
Close, right? This is. I'm going to read down until I get to Call of Duty. I'll read up. Call of Duty World at War, 6th place.
Okay.
Obviously, that's the first one post Modern Warfare when it really exploded, but they didn't really have a chance to. It was World War II again. GTA 4, 5th. And then Smash Brothers Brawl, Wii Fit, Mario Kart Wii, Wii Play.
Yeah, I suppose we forget
Wii Play still.
You know
how big that Wii was.
Though? Well, also Wii Play, it's like you don't get 1-2 Switch or whatever. I mean, obviously that whole thing.
Didn't Wii Play have a bundled Wii remote with it?
It was £10. It was 10. I remember I worked in game at the time. It was £10 more, I think. But you got then a Wii remote on its own, but you got the game. So it's like, do you want this game for a tenner? And people would go, and you go, and they go, what is it? And you go, well, it's made by the same people who made Wii Sports. And they go, okay, even though it was crap.
No, that it was 99% crap, but it had a very good.
I can't remember. I can't remember. There was a game. I don't know if it was Wii Play or was there one called Wii Party, but it had a theme tune that was like a horrible, horrible brainworm. Like it used to go da 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 da, and the trailer had that theme tune in it. And we had the DVD in game where it would play trailers of games, and whenever that trailer would come on with that song, someone would run out back and turn the sound up really, really loud so the bass would shake the whole shop. And it has a little drum fill in it where it goes, and we all used to do it on the desk. So that's my Wii Play memory. Or we Play or Wii Party, I can't remember. I'm going to find that.
I'm playing Picross Capcom at the moment. And it's just like all these Capcom NES tunes on loop. And at first I hated it. I turned the sound, but by the end now I'm like,
the Mega Man one's amazing.
It's just Mega Man, yeah.
I saw your tweet about that. It's, those Capcom had some killers back in the day composing. Still do, to be fair. That Street Fighter 6 soundtrack.
Yeah. Before we take a break, let's briefly chat about the other 2 games that were at the Xbox Developer Direct. There was Kiln, which is a new. Go on. There's Kiln, which is a new Double Fine one, which is basically for people who are into it, fine. It's an online multiplayer pottery party brawler where basically you create your own pottery, make it your armor, and then you fight online. I don't really do online, so it didn't really appeal to me. But I don't know if either of you.
I've liked Double Fine's other small games, and actually, I think Keeper was one of the best games of last year. I think the interesting thing about that is 2 things. One is this game has been in the public domain for a long time because it was part of Amnesia Fortnite. I want to say like 10 years ago, and there was that documentary, and it was horribly. There was like a awful cringe like bit of it where like, so if you didn't watch the thing, Amnesia Fortnite is a thing that Double Fine do where they forget about all their projects that they're currently working on, so they get amnesia and they do it for 2 weeks. They do it for a fortnight, and basically in that 2 weeks people can work on what they want, and they come up, it's a game jam. And they, years ago when Double Fine was still independent, they had a documentary crew in Double Fine had just been purchased, I can't remember, but they had a documentary crew in to cover Amnesia Fortnite. And that was when I think the whole story came out about Matt Booty going, you can't do this unless Xbox owns all these concepts. And it caused a bit of a stir because this is supposed to be just people messing about. And the idea is if a concept gets rejected, then maybe they could hold on to that, take it somewhere else, maybe they leave and do it independent. But the idea was, no, if you do this as part of Amnesia Fortnite, it belongs to Xbox, whether we pick it up or not. Anyway, Kiln was one of those games. So that's interesting. And the other thing I'd say that's interesting is just look at these Xbox studios doing game after game after game on a really regular cadence. Like, they're not breaking the internet, but Obsidian's run last year was
insane.
What's it called? Grounded 2 and then Outer Worlds. And then you think about it, Double Fine have had Keeper and this within 6-9 months.
And then you got Playground. I got 2 massive games this year.
So it's a shame. It's a shame that maybe this has all just come too late, because there was a lengthy period where it was like Xbox has no games and that was the running thing, and now Xbox does have games, but everyone's kind of given up already. And it's like could they have been doing a lot better if this had happened a couple of years ago instead?
Yes and no. I think the problem is that all this is what Xbox needed to shift consoles when they were actually still in the race. So when it's come too late, what has really happened is it's come so late that Xbox hardware is basically irrelevant, and Xbox seems to be the worst prepared of the big three for all the memory shortages and stuff, because seems like there's very few Xboxes on the shelves. Whereas you've got Nintendo CEO going, yeah, we've got a supply for a while, we've got to keep an eye on it, but we reckon we're all right for a bit. We reckon we might be able to ride it out. So yeah, I mean, I do think there is an argument for, if all this stuff, I mean, if some butts
the thing with Microsoft is, if they did have a supply of RAM, they'd be going, no, stick it in the AI server.
Well, yes. Yeah, that's part of the problem. But yeah, I think there is an alternate universe where Xbox Game Studios was firing on this sort of cadence 5 years ago, and maybe the console gap is much closer. And now it doesn't even matter because all these games are on PlayStation anyway. So.
Yeah. And how about Beast of Reincarnation, the new one from I say Game Freak, but they've now recently come out and basically confirmed that
it's not Game Freak.
Game Freak themselves are just gonna the director bit,
I don't know. Give them a bit of credit.
I've spoken to people who are working on that game, and they don't work for Game Freak.
Yeah, but it's sort of like, is Nier Automata a Square Enix game or a Platinum game? That's the sort of, and the answer is right. It's a bit of both. Like the producer, the director, etc., at Square Enix. All the big, like most of the big decisions, if not all of them, emanate from Square Enix. But Platinum is there doing the lifting and making it look and feel good. And this is
can I say this in the kindest way though? Is that argument comes up when the leads on the project at the studio, like the 4 leads from the studio, like the 4 employees from the studio, have like some competency in that. I just don't like all of the majority of their non-Pokemon stuff. And to be fair, Pokemon stuff recently, right, has not set the world on fire. The Gear Project originals, like what Tam was the elephant, was it Tambo the elephant, and Giga Wrecker, and
the Pocket Card Jockey was good.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. And those are the sorts of small scope games that they should be working on with this stuff, right? But they clearly have a, it's noble enough. Like they want to train up their, younger employees, right? That's what they said to me when I went there and interviewed them about Gear Project when we started VGC. The idea was to put these younger guys, like the guy who directed Giga Wrecker, was like the programmer on I don't know, X and Y or Black and White, like one of the Pokemons. And then he's like, well, go and do that. And then you come back and you've got some more experience. You can see how like having them work on this big, high def character action game, they could bring some of that back.
Because the guy who's directed this one, Kota Furushima, he previously worked as a battle planner and a sound manager in certain Pokemon games. So it's not like he was high up the rankings. So it seems like they've put him in charge of this project. They've not allocated massive amounts of internal Game Freak resources to it, because obviously they're working on Pokemon. And you can tell by looking at it, that needs a big team. And Game Freak's big teams are working on Pokemon. They're outsourcing most of this to other studios, but keep giving this guy training on how to manage and run a big scale game, so that when Pokemon becomes a big scale game, this guy can can contribute to that and make Pokemon better. I think it looks quite good. It looks very similar to Wild Hearts, the EA Koei Tecmo one.
It's like you know how like when you have when you have Sakurai, right? Sakurai does not have a studio, right? When he makes a game, he goes and gets, like, basically it's Bandai Namco these days. He goes and gets a bunch of guys, and then he's like, very meticulous on his details, right? As you can see from his YouTube show. And he can do that, right? I mean, I think the Kirby Air Riders team has literally just disbanded. Like, they'll just, disband. And then when he wants to make a game, he'll go and get another team, right? With every respect, I don't know if you can do that with, like, the battle planner from Pokemon Pearl ZB or whatever it was.
What I'd say is I think it looks good. I've heard that they are quite excited about, like, how it's metricing in China, which is interesting. Because that's obviously a huge market that we just don't get any bead on, and if that game ends up being huge there,
it does look a lot like the one type of game that we ever see come west from China.
And I think the discourse is absolutely honking because people look at it and go, why can't Pokemon look like this? And there's about 20 reasons. And some of them are fair enough.
Because and the biggest one being that they want to make them on a 20 million budget. Being the biggest one. We don't want to spend any money.
What we're going to do, we're going to take a break right now because we're more than 40 minutes into this, and I'm conscious there are two very big stories we've still not touched on yet. So anyone who likes our usual end of show banter, tough luck. It looks like we're
turn off now.
We're going news right up to the end of this. So we're going to take a very quick break, and we'll be back with Ubisoft and a Nintendo legend retiring. And we are back, gentlemen. The Xbox Developer Direct was all well and good. Those are very positive things coming out of the video games industry, but unfortunately the week hasn't been full of great news. We've had major shakes at Ubisoft, who have detailed a major company reset with 6 games cancelled, 7 games delayed, and 2 studios closed. The organisational restructuring, which has been in the works for a year, is designed to help the French publisher, quote, reclaim its creative leadership and drive a sharp rebound. They're basically turning everything into... They're restructuring the studio into 5 creative houses, a bit like Hogwarts. And it's resulted in 6 game cancellations. The most notable of which is the remake of Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, which some people believed was imminent, and is now just extinct apparently. So that's not ideal.
I think they heard that it was done, but they didn't realise that the person was saying it's done.
It is done. It's done. Yeah, not done and dusted, but yeah, done. Which is a shame. I mean, that game was in development for a long time, much longer than a remake of Sands of Time needed to be. So you kind of wonder if maybe Ubisoft were just preparing. Is that a situation where had they released that game, it would have got a Metacritic of 50 or 60, and Ubisoft's reputation would have taken an even bigger kick?
I don't think their share price can go like negative, can it?
Well, there is a thing that happens if that happens. There is a mechanism.
They were worth 10 billion like 8 years ago, and they're now worth $500 million.
I think Prince of Persia, if I had to guess, what's the most common circumstances for a game like that to get delayed and to get cancelled? It's basically, it's finished, they analyse it, they go, this isn't going to sell the way we need it to sell without a significant rework. How much is the rework going to cost? It's not worth it. That's what I guess.
It's a shame. I mean,
it's always seemed very self-indulgent to me as well, that I know internally they have an incredible amount of, like, the people at the top having a lot of love for Sands of Time because they see it as the real breakthrough game that transformed them. Mm-hmm. Like whenever, like I think when you get to the age where you forget games you reviewed.
Oh yes.
Like I think I'm pretty sure I reviewed it because the head of Ubisoft Montreal studio he gave me like all kinds of access, and I'm pretty sure it was because I reviewed that game. He's like, I remember that review, and but they hold that game in such high regard. So I kind of looked at it from a different perspective as well, that what you're saying is almost certainly true, but also now that they've got the adults in the room, the Tencent investment, and they're really taking a serious look at stuff, the game probably doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit, but when you talk about self-indulgences, you get to the point where you're cancelling multiple projects and you're saying we need things to have a really sharp, definite audience in order to continue, and you're still committed to Beyond Good and Evil 2. There's someone has got the knows where the skeletons are hidden, right?
In terms of the structure, you've got Creative House 1, which is Vantage Studios, which is the one they've announced before, which is focusing on Rainbow Six, Assassin's Creed, and Far Cry. Creative House 2 is competitive and cooperative shooters, so like Division, Ghost Recon, Splinter Cell. Creative House 3 is select sharp live experiences like For Honor, The Crew, Riders Republic, Brawlhalla, and everyone's favourite Skull and Bones. Creative House 4 is fantasy worlds in narrative-driven universes, Anno, Might and Magic, Rayman, Prince of Persia, and Beyond Good and Evil. And Creative House 5, which is family-friendly games like Just Dance and Hasbro, so that's clearly Slytherin. It's a restructure that I think is needed because they've been struggling for a while. You've just got to kind of hope, like everyone on the old socials loves to kick these companies because there's generally a lot of shenanigans that go on around all the kind of gaming landscape, but nobody wants to see like a big institution like Ubisoft fail, if only because there was a time when they were delivering blockbuster after blockbuster, and you want them to turn things around and deliver more blockbusters rather than to completely go under and so many more people lose their jobs like at a time when it's already grim. You hope they turn it around because like I can't remember the date, but around about the time when Far Cry 5 and South Park Stick of Truth and everything was coming out, their share price was €107 at one point, and now it's £4. And it's like they've dropped more than 95%.
It's more like they going into the pandemic. They compared to like the other big two at the time, EA, Take-Two, Activision, so big four, if you will. They didn't have that live service game, to carry them through a quiet year. I mean, EA Ultimate Team, Take-Two have got GTA Online. Activision obviously got Call of Duty like Warzone or whatever now. Take-Two can go ages without releasing a big game.
Wow,
and still like be up. Yeah, but the same with EA. EA can have a quiet year. I mean, less so now. But now that EA, you see what's happened as soon as Ultimate Team took a slight dip. It's like emergency stations, and they're now owned by the Saudis. But they could do that for a long time. Ubisoft, didn't have that big game. I mean, they've got Rainbow Six Siege, but it's not on the same scale. No. But also they were obsessed with trying to get one, understandably. So what they ended up doing was creating the worst of both worlds, where they didn't have this big live service game, but then they had all of their teams we've probably forgotten about all these battle royale games that they launched and then closed like a month later, right?
Yeah.
I mean, X Defiant being the most recent, kind of live servicey thing that they've done that with, and you've seen this, like it's kind of tragic in a way, because actually, what's come out in the mud is that people who make these great big single player open world adventure games are doing really well, and Assassin's Creed still does incredibly well, but Ubisoft had like 3 or 4 of those in tandem, and so I mean, obviously they had we shouldn't underplay all of the scandal that happened around that time as well. They bled a lot of talent for obvious reasons. Yeah. People who either didn't want to be there or who had to leave.
Yeah.
So they went through that as well. I mean, certainly anecdotally, I used to know lots of people, like at creative director level at Ubisoft, and now I don't really. It's a very different company to what it was 5-10 years ago. I think it makes sense, right? What they're trying to do is they're trying to give these teams ownership and autonomy over their brands, which is a very different style to what kind of built them to where they were. Because they had this team called the editorial team in Paris, who everything went through them. So they had this kind of like these cross team learnings in theory in this editorial team, and they might give feedback and stuff from that perspective, and it was really successful for a while. Like if you think of Ubisoft like what we consider its peak, they were really good at creating original IPs that immediately resonated with zeitgeist. You know, like you think about like Watch Dogs 1, which, you know, I mean, if it reviewed like, you know, 7, 8 out of 10-ish on Metacritic, so in that sense, not a huge hit. It was like their fastest selling game. I mean, I'm pretty sure it sold like 10 million copies very quickly because they knew the social media privacy that was becoming a big issue. They had, the marketing teams would be embedded on the development teams, and they would have this feedback early on. If you thought about, you know, making a game like this, and it worked for them. But obviously, what happened down the line is then you kind of get lots of games that felt incredibly similar. You know, every Ubisoft game by the end felt like an Ubisoft game, right? Yeah. And that's the end result of that. So now they're going the other way, where these creative houses will have their own leadership. They'll be responsible for their own budgets and things like that. So I guess that's their hope, that they can rebound by almost coming at it from the other direction.
Yeah. It's very similar to Square Enix. It's very, very similar to...
It's funny you say that's exactly what I thought when I read it.
Admittedly, they're restructuring now, so they're moving not completely, but a little bit away from that.
They're making an editorial team, yeah.
And it can work in the sense of, yes, it's great. You have the creative business division that did Final Fantasy 14 and did 16, and then you've got the division that does the Final Fantasy 7 games and also does Kingdom Hearts, actually, and the division that does all the small 2D games and HD 2D games and stuff like that. I sort of personally prefer the Capcom-y, its individual teams, but hey ho. But
I do think that this is almost like an inevitability, because I look at Capcom now, and they've been. I mean, we've said this to them, right? To their top brass, like, you know, for me, in the last decade, they've been the best publisher, right? Third party publisher, just hit after hit after hit. Like, it's the real golden era for them. But I've been thinking for a while that if they become too comfortable with that, and go, well, this is a formula for success, is that it's just inevitable. Like, it's what's happened to Ubisoft, right? Is that, well, this is working, so we just carry on doing this, and eventually you're going to end up making the same types of games, and people are going to get bored. You have to challenge yourself.
To your point about Ubisoft's live service games and how they don't have a killer live service game, I've been looking at their previous attempts since like around about 2018. They've given us The Crew 2. They've given us Hyperscape. Do you remember Hyperscape?
Yeah, that was the one I was thinking of. Yeah.
They've given us what else? They have given us Riders Republic. They have given us Rainbow Six Extraction. They have given us Roller Champions. They have given us Wild Arena Survivors on mobile. They have given us The Crew Motorfest. They have given us Skull and Bones, of course. They've given us X-Defiant.
And for every one of those games, there's at least 2 more that they cancelled. You know,
yes,
they've been really on that.
The one thing I'd say is there's a general change, though, right, as well, where, don't get me wrong, Ubisoft's brass has done loads wrong to get to this situation, and it's awful, right? That people who are talented developers are having to pay for that now, essentially. But also there is the general market change. If you look 20 years ago and you look at the big Western free from 20 years ago, EA doesn't resemble what it was 20 years ago, even remotely. And neither does Ubisoft. EA because it's changed and is still successful. Ubisoft because it didn't change and wasn't successful. And weirdly, the only one that is the same is 2K, basically. And they obviously have a great big underpinning of Rockstar. Yeah. So
let's before we wrap things up.
Can I chuck one in before we go?
Absolutely.
I asked Alex Hutchinson, Far Cry 4 director, Assassin's Creed. What was the Assassin's Creed he did? He did 3.
Did you do the London one? I feel like. Or was that after?
I think he did. I think he did Assassin's Creed 3 and he did Far Cry 4. So I asked him about this. Like, what are your thoughts? And he said it seems like they're clearing out all editorial in Paris, and it will just be sales and strategy there moving forward. I think they were unable to reconfigure it into a functional creative unit after Serge's departure. Serge's was the big boss there for years, who left in the scandal. So it makes sense to give control back to the games themselves. There were always a bunch of games hanging around for too long that never found their footing, he says. So I think a bit of clarity on which games are going to be driven to completion and which had their shot and needed to wind down is good overall. Plus, I've never believed. Oh, because this is another point: is that they're also mandating that everyone has to go back to work 5 days a week as part of this change, which he actually agrees with. He says, "I've never believed remote work was very functional on really big games where you need lots of communication and you want to collaborate with your team. The benefits of in-person conversations and casual learnings from seeing what everyone else is working on outside of a presentation or meeting are immense. Plus, on big teams full remote, you have a percentage of people who will hide and work less, and it's hard to weed them out, so to waste money." As much as that might sound negative to people on this who are perhaps not familiar, from my experience, and I've worked remotely on a game, and being able to walk around, so many big decisions came from seeing people's screens. Like even lunch break. Oh my God, have you thought about this and that? And like big decisions from my experience came from that. He says, finally, in terms of the new house structure, it could work, but I don't know the details. It would be good to be in Snufflepuff House or whatever, but I would worry about I would worry about ending up in Shit House.
That's a Just Dance one. No offense to Just Dance fan. Before we break up and go our separate ways, a brief shout out to veteran Nintendo producer Kensuke Tanabe, known for producing the more kind of recent Metroid and the Paper Mario games. He has reportedly confirmed his retirement. He told the Japanese magazine Nintendo Dream that Metroid Prime 4 was to be his last game at Nintendo. He said, quote, "It's been 40 years since..." This is machine translation, I should point out, just in case there's quirks in this. But the quote is, "It's been 40 years since I joined Nintendo. Metroid Prime 4 will be my final title developed at Nintendo. However, we didn't set out to create anything special because of this. Instead, we worked closely with Retro Studios, just as we always have with Nintendo projects, aiming to deliver a fun and unique experience for players of all ages and playstyles. If it leaves a lasting impression in the memories of those who play it, I'll be deeply gratified. And for those who haven't yet experienced it, I urge you to see the unknown planet of Vuros through Samus's eyes." This man has, obviously, you talk about your Miyamotos and your Inumas and your Koji Kondos and the likes, but this guy has been there since. He did some course design on a little-known game called Doki Doki Panic, which we've mentioned once or twice on the podcast. I don't know if any of you two know that, but that became Super Mario Bros. 2, apparently.
Did it?
Doki Doki Panic. Yeah, listen, I bet you're glad you came here today because you've learned a thing or thing or two.
I must have told a story where I worked on that BBC Nintendo documentary, right?
Where
they made the. I'm definitely repeating this anecdote, but I'm going to do it anyway. Where they got me in as like a super fan advisor. Right. And I was at BBC White City with all of my consoles and games and stuff. Right. And they're like, right, tell us about Nintendo, like for research. They had me there, work experience to do research for them, basically. And they absolutely latched onto that. Like, yeah, this is Super Mario Bros. 2, because it wasn't originally Super Mario Bros. 2. What? Like, it was a huge scandal for them. If you go and find that documentary, it's called Dynasties.
Doki Doki Panic. The story.
Something Dynasties, Nintendo documentary. You can find it. They ask Miyamoto about it from my research. So, can you tell us about Doki? Like, but they do it like a gotcha. Well, anyway, next we'd like to ask you about something you might not want to talk about. Doki. Does that ring a bell, Mr. Miyamoto?
You prick.
Or as I should call it, Super Mario Brothers 2?
You've robbed us.
Fraud. You fraud bastard. But yeah, Kensuke Tanabe, his credits include, I'm not going to go through it because it's 40 years of credits here, but he worked on course design on Super Mario Bros. 3. He was a scenario writer on Link to the Past, Link's Awakening. He designed some of the maps and Stunt Race FX, Kirby's Dream Course. He's worked throughout the SNES, throughout the Nintendo 64. He produced an absolute shit ton of games throughout the 2000s, the Metroid Prime series, the Paper Mario series, Super Mario Strikers, Mother 3, Excite Truck, a personal favourite of mine, Captain Rainbow.
He's basically responsible for any external studios.
Yeah.
You know, from past those early days, he was the producer at Nintendo who would look after the externally developed stuff. It should be said, controversial figure among some fan bases, because obviously he's responsible for Metroid, which has gone into some horrific pivot in some cases. Same with Paper Mario. Always found him quite a refreshing interview.
Yes.
I mean, so when I interviewed him for Origami King, you can see from this, he's in an interview with Nintendo. It doesn't surprise me at all. Interview with Nintendo Dreams, like, yeah, of course, this is my last game. Not doing anymore. The ending. I knew everyone would hate it, but this is why. very frank,
Yeah.
interviewee. He just told me that Paper Mario one. Yeah, of course we can't put any other Nintendo original characters in now because of the restrictions around it. Like, so fantastic person to interview as a journalist. Very sad that this Famicom era of creators are on the way out. I mean, I had heard this was coming for a while.
There's two stories, right?
You go and look at my Twitter account. There's a whole bunch of them who are at retirement age or approaching it who won't be there for much longer.
Yeah. I mean, some of them, I expect Miyamoto will stay until he's literally too aged.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically not been working there for decade plus.
Yeah, he's just like but essentially, there's two stories to this. The first story is obviously that, I mean, wish him the best in his retirement and thank you for all his hard work, etc. Absolutely. And then the two stories are, one, like you say, how many people at Nintendo are... This is going to be the last console where a lot of the people who worked on the NES and the Super NES are involved. It's going to be the last for a lot of them. And then the second element of the story, though, I think is... This is the underrated part. I think Nintendo has been more prepared for succession than most video game companies.
Yeah.
And you can see
that a lot of these guys haven't been hands-on for ages.
Well, you can see that in how I can't remember her name. You might have it in front of you, Chris. But like his successor she has been on every project of his and a few of her own for like 10 years.
Yeah, she knows the score.
Yeah,
Misa Tabata.
So didn't the Breath of the Wild director, because he was at Capcom.
He did the Zelda games at Capcom.
I'm thinking, he
did the Zelda games at Capcom.
Yeah. So he joined like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I should also point out that while Kensuke Tanabe produced most of the Metroid, well, the pretty much the Metroid Prime games, it didn't appear to have anything to do with Metroid Other M, so that's another feather in his
All
cap.
is forgiven then.
What a guy. So all the best to Kensuke Tanabe in his apparent retirement. Who knows, he might go and join 2K. He might go and lead one of Ubisoft's creative houses for all we know.
He might go and take over like Alien Isolation and put some bloody annoying NPCs in it.
Now
Hey, Ripley!
Hey, Ripley, that looks like a xenomorph.
Just tells you where the alien is. The alien's on your right.
Ripley, have you considered nuking the place from orbit, just to be sure?
No.
First, got to collect the green crystals.
The alien wouldn't be in the game. The alien would be at the start of the game, and then at the end of the game, and then at the end of the game, go Ripley, and that would be it. And then the rest of the game would be some other stuff. Anyway.
Well, I look forward to that game. Kensuke Tanabe, you heard it here first. Producing a brand new Alien game. Thank you very much to everyone. Thank you very much to Andy, as always, for contractually obligated podcast appearance. Thank you to Alex Donaldson. Alex, where can the boys and girls, if they like the cut of your jib, where can they get more frequent cuts from the same jib?
Largely, at my online handle is AP Zone Runner. That's Alpha Papa.
Don't search for it on X because you won't find it.
The word zone like Sonic, and then the word runner like Marathon Runner. Yeah, you won't find me on X because I got shadow banned for calling Elon a cuck. But you can find me on Blue Sky. And RPG Site is my website that just covers role playing games. So if you like RPGs, I'm sure we've been doing some deep dives on Fable. Obviously, Final Fantasy. We didn't talk about it today, but Final Fantasy 7's on Switch 2 and on Xbox this week. And also on Eurogamer, which everyone, that's a pretty commonly known site, I guess, much more so. But yeah, you can find
Eurogamer.com.
Yeah, no. Both those websites actually are .net. RPG sites are .net as well. Yeah, all the cool sites are .net.
All the best ones. Thank you very much to everyone for listening. Of course, if you can send us your questions, comments, and concerns to podcast@videogameschronicle.com. Please do consider joining us on patreon.com/videogameschronicle and chucking a couple of greenbacks our way to get some extra content, some extra podcasts, extra videos, ad-free browsing, comments on our site, all the mod cons that anyone would expect from an outstanding video game news and entertainment experience. Thank you very much to everyone for watching. Jordan Midler will be back in a hot seat next week, no doubt, with 4,000 tales about his trip to Japan. So look forward to that. Until next time, say goodbye, Alex.
See you guys.
Say goodbye, Andy.
Goodbye.
And we will catch you on the flip-flop. Goodbye.